Hey, what's up, guys? Got a Fresh and Fit clip for you guys. They're interviewing Dr. Orion Taraban. Let's go and watch it.
Women making society polygamous. What's your thoughts on that? You made a video about that.
I did. So you kind of have to read between the lines on the data. So there was a general social survey that was done recently that basically disclosed that in the last year, 1 out of 3 men under 30 did not have sex.
Yeah.
That's an incredible finding. The 20s are a really important decade for mating and dating.
Mm-hmm.
And this basically said that 1 in 3 guys were completely invisible.
Yep.
They were totally not even in the sexual marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
The comparable statistic for women in the same age group was 1 in 6. So 1 in 6 women under 30 did not have sex in the previous year. So if you do the math, this basically means that active participants in the sexual marketplace, there's 5 women for every 4 men.
Mm-hmm.
That means somebody's sharing somebody.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, the numbers don't add up otherwise.
Absolutely.
So roughly, according to those statistics, 20% of women are in some sort of polygamous arrangement, whether they're aware of it or not.
Yep.
Now, does that mean that they're in a negotiated, open relationship?
At minimum, yeah.
Well, yeah. You also see the fact with respect to the distribution in body count, right? The top 1% of women have had 50 partners or more. The top 1% of men have had 150 partners or more.
Yeah.
So what we also see as a consequence of this is, I'm sure you talk about this on your channel, is hypergamy.
Yeah.
Women want to date for gain. We were talking about that earlier. And women are doing very well these days. Like in most quantifiable metrics, they're actually out earning men in the West under 30 without children in that demographic.
Yeah.
They're more likely to graduate high school, college, postgraduate degrees.
Absolutely.
Especially in income and education, they're doing really well relative to men.
Absolutely.
Which basically means that if they're continuing to hang on to their hypergamy, there's a smaller and smaller pool of men that they're ever going to even consider as a potential mate.
Yep.
And these guys at the top enjoy unprecedented optionality.
Yeah.
The top 5% are getting first dibs, and they're taking more than they really need because they can. And who's going to stop them?
And so you actually have a few guys who are having access to the vast majority of the sexual opportunity in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And the likelihood that any one of those guys at any given moment is going to give up all of that incredible optionality for this one woman is functionally very, very low.
Especially when he had to work to get there.
Well, that's why I say men treat women the way women treat money. Okay? We can talk about that in a second. But
when you get a chance, yeah.
What I'm saying here is
the optionality.
Yeah. The men that women want things from are the least likely to give it to them.
Yeah.
And women don't seem to understand that.
Yeah.
That's true. And I mean, on the other side, the men who most want the women are going to be least likely to want to be with them. And this huge segment of guys that are basically alone, society tells them as advice, be more masculine, work on yourself. Eventually, you'll be at this point where you can be like these high value dudes too. But even when you get there, then what? Who's going to get married anymore? Why would they want to? I mean, I think it's one thing for a lot of the top guys to be, smashing all these women, but at the same time, if you're this guy at the top and you get married, why would you do that? They have no incentive to. And if the guy at the bottom, say you manage to climb up to middle class somewhere, and one of these women who used to be the cream's coming down, and you can marry one of them, but is it going to be monogamous? Is there a guarantee of that? No, because by the time you have enough money and this woman's 30 and you're 30 and you guys decide to get married, I mean, they've already been programmed by these prior experiences.
Yeah.
Sorry, say what I'm saying.
The men that women most want things from are the least likely to give it to them.
Cool.
If most women say want commitment, if most women want monogamy, if most women want long-term provision, the men that they want those things from at the top, like 10%, they're the least likely to give them those things.
Facts.
Why would they? Because so many women want them. So many people are after them. They have so many options.
They'll give them a sexual encounter. They don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
But they're very unlikely to give them those things because it means giving up all this other optionality.
Yeah. Yeah. That they had to fight for
Yes,
women really
men have to earn their optionality, just like women have to earn their money.
Yep.
It's women. It's like, would you rather spend your own money or somebody else's money?
Yep.
Of course, you'd rather spend someone else's money. That is rational.
Yep.
You're very loath to give up your money if you had to put your blood, sweat, and tears into earning it.
Yeah.
Men have to earn their sexual optionality. That's why they're very loath to give it up.
Yeah.
When marriage worked, because it doesn't anymore, when the laws were at least a little bit more equitable, however you feel about no-fault divorce, at least there was more incentive for that guy at the top of the pyramid to get married if he wanted to stop the partying and settle down with somebody. Because, you know, they had actual divorce that could be based on fault. And if she walked out on him or she cheated on him and he can prove that, that's going to affect how the property and assets get divvied up here. You know, if there's actually an injured party. The way it is now, with no-fault divorce where it's entirely administrative, that guy at the top of the pyramid has less incentive to get married in the first place. So he's less likely to get locked down monogamously anyways.
Yep.
They're also more likely to take it when it's offered.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard a woman who was offered money say, no, thank you.
Absolutely.
I have enough money, or I have a job.
And I want to say this, and because I want you to expand on that a little bit, and we'll close out. What the top 1%?
Top 10% of men.
This is what I was going to say. Feminism, women being educated, women making money, etc. Women getting all these rights and privileges and all this access. What it inadvertently did, and unforeseen circumstances, and no one talks about this, is it actually has put the top 1% of guys in the driver's seat. They're the ones that really control the sexual marketplace. Now, do women in general control it? Absolutely. But the reality is the guys at the absolute top have they control
Monopoly.
the sexual marketplace, and they control the monopoly.
Yeah.
And women inadvertently did this by increasing their own status because they're slaves to their hypergamy. So therefore, since they're slaves to their hypergamy and men need to always be in the social hierarchy at the top for women to be attracted, they've inadvertently given all the power to a small percentage of men that you just described are the least likely to give them what they want. So they have to settle with a guy a lot of times that's on their level or maybe lower, and they can't satisfy that hypergamous tendency. Every girl come on the podcast. Oh, I dated a guy that's a bum. I've dated a guy that's less than me. Where's he at now? That's my famous response. And they never have an answer. It's fucking crickets every single time. So, yeah.
It's because those guys at the top are so coveted by most of the women. They have the power to give them a relationship or a marriage, you know, the holy grail for these ladies. Because if they can get this guy to marry them legally, then they got financing for a long time, probably the rest of their lives. You know, and unfortunately, the advice for a lot of men is try to be one of those guys also. I mean, people watch hours and hours of even this podcast. Andrew Tate would be the perfect example. Join Hustlers University. Give me $50 a month, you know, and then you too can be 6'4" and have great genetics and get all these chicks. You know, it's like the funny thing about him is, you know, he's not the average guy. Let's just be honest. You know, he has all those markers to be able to even be getting girls without money. You know, before he had money, his famous story was that he had 4 girlfriends and he invited them all over at the same time to ask them if they want to do webcam and blah, blah, blah. And then that's how he started making his money. Most normal guys aren't going to have that opportunity. You can improve yourself, and self-improvement's good, but the advice out there essentially equates to become a narcissist in order to get a narcissist, right? Hyper improve yourself to this crazy degree to where you pay so much attention with how you look and have this really high amount of money, and then, you know, everyone can be fighting over you. And it kind of sucks that seems to be like this either or mentality. It's like the erosion of the middle class. You know, there's this bigger wealth gap than there's ever been before. And it's either I try to get rich like them, or we're all down here poor and the middle class is just slowly going away.
Real quick, you have an analogy with men treat women like with the money analogy. Can you tell the audience that one last time?
Yeah, I made a video a while ago. It was entitled Women Treat Men the Way Men Treat Jobs. And it was kind of a way to introduce men to the concept of hypergamy. It's not personal.
Yeah.
Like, you might be at a job You might not have any problem with your job. You might even be happy with your job. But if you get a call from a recruiter and says, hey, I just got off the phone with this company. They're willing to offer you 3 times your salary. They're going to give you unlimited PTO. You don't have to commute to work anymore. You're at least going to entertain that offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of folks aren't going to entertain it for very long. They're going to put in their notice.
Yep.
And they're going to
They're
say,
out.
and they're going to believe it. They're going to say, I wish you all the best. It was great to work here. You were so wonderful. I really hope that you guys succeed. I just have to do this for my career. That's the right move to make.
Yep.
It's funny because if you apply that to marriage, back before No Fault, someone can get an offer like that possibly, and they could leave, but that wouldn't mean they got the golden parachute on the way out. Because if they didn't have a reason to get divorced, it'd be very hard to, first of all, but if that person was cheating with this other person or whatever, then if they were at fault for the reason the marriage isn't going to work, or they abandoned the marriage, or were neglecting their duties as a spouse, then the man in that situation whose wife left, they'd be able to still have a shot in court to retain most of what's theirs, essentially, because they would then be the injured party. When divorce moved over to No Fault, it became more administrative, and it wasn't grounded in any kind of morality at all. So she can get that offer, leave into the new marriage, and then leave with half the assets, everything split down the middle, because that's just what it is now. So there's no protection there.
As a career.
Yeah.
Right? And no one is going to say, after all the training we gave you,
Yeah.
it's like, of course we understand that they're going to go somewhere else if they offer him 3 times as much money.
Yep.
Like, that's how women treat relationships.
Yeah.
It's not personal. It's what man offers the most compelling, complete salary package.
That comes back to your rationality that you described earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just money. Like, I know women, for example, who will take a pay cut if it means that they have more flexibility with their hours, or they
with
don't
time.
have to commute. So I have another metaphor that it's like, it's the cat that decides what milk is good. You can't be pouring out milk and be like, cats should like this milk. It's like, if there's no cats drinking your milk, dude, that milk ain't good. The cat decides what milk is good.
Yeah.
So
The market dictates your value.
and it's that woman's preferences in that
time,
moment.
money. It could be, for example, just lifestyle, whatever she wants as her primary agency. If the man provides it, that might be her gold.
And she's going to choose, all things being equal, the man that offers her the best possible option of her available options.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know what the ironic thing about this is with feminism and with the women's liberation and all that, to take the metaphor of the cat and the milk, the cat should be providing its own milk for itself, right? I mean, because that's the argument, that women are independent, they can get all this stuff, yet the great hypocrisy in all of this is that with being able to provide for themselves, women are still searching for a man that can provide those traditional roles, while at the same time not fulfilling her traditional roles. So it's going to be a guy that makes more money than her. So then, my money's my money, your money's our money. And then the advice that we give the guys who are left out in the cold is, hey, you need to be this high value man, become a high value man, which is great. Okay, if you can become a high value man, but it's not feasible for everyone to do that, which means you're still going to have most of these people left out in the cold, and that's just the way it is. So why are we still giving men the advice to be traditional men or to be hyper traditional men, make a bunch of money, and even these high value guys, at the end of the day, it's like these dudes are not getting it for free. So you become high value, and then you start simping off your money in order to get access to these chicks. That's what's going on. I mean, that's what the boat's being used for. Flying them out on the ticket, paying for everything. You're still submitting to them, high value or not. The only difference is do you commit to the state contract or not? And the longer you can avoid committing to the state contract, then then I guess you win in that situation, and she ends up becoming bitter and resentful and feeling used, regardless of how much money the high value guy spent on them. And with women, at least according to these statistics, behaving in a polygamous manner, you know, it reveals that they're not behaving in a way that fulfills the feminine traditional role, but they're looking for men who fulfill the masculine traditional role. There's a hypocrisy there. Ideally, if it's even possible, it should be women bringing half of the provisioning to the relationship and the guy bringing the other half, and then they, you know, split the housework or the raising of the kids or whatever it's going to be. Why do you need to look for a provisioner if you're fully capable of provisioning for yourself? But they don't want those guys that are going to go 50-50 with them. They want the high value person. And then the guys are stuck in this issue where it's like, all right, well, I'm either alone or I have to play the game. But you play the game and the laws are forcing you to give the money up or to be the provisioner, especially after the marriage collapses. Now the state's forcing you to be the provisioner. Spousal support, child support. If you work all this time to be this high value man, and then for what? For one of these women that are such a narcissist that they think they deserve this top 5% of guys, then they got nothing else to offer other than their bodies. That's the advice. Everybody just becomes this narcissist that hyper focuses on themselves, you know, and not, you know, I don't want to rail against the self-improvement gurus too much. Self-improvement's good, but really the issue, in my opinion, stems from biased laws. It's the laws. These people should be working together to get the laws fair and equitable again. What does a man get from signing a marriage contract in this day and age? It used to be paternity. Okay, so before we had genetic tests, if you were married to a woman, the kids born within that marriage were your children legally. But we don't need that now because the child support system exists. The federal government created voluntary declaration of paternities, which you sign in the hospital, and it gets filed with the state, and it's the equivalent of a legal finding of paternity. They made this because there were so many single parents giving birth to children out of wedlock after you know, birth control, no-fault divorce, and all these things, welfare. So if you don't need marriage to establish paternity, then okay, that's one half of what marriage gives you, and we already have a legal way of circumventing that. The other part of that, of marriage, is supposed to be a woman who will be, you know, monogamous with you and won't cheat on you and all these kinds of stuff, and that's part of the contract, or they're going to be homemakers. Okay, and that's the deal, and then you take care of them. And you guys live as a happy family. But most women don't want to fulfill that role. Again, if you're this high-value guy, you can have a kid out of wedlock, not advisable, because the child support's going to be crazy. Instead of, why would you get married? Why pay the spousal support? You know, before no fault, custody hearings were different. You know, if she left out on the marriage, you'd be the first one to get custody or to have more of a say in that. The judges would use that in their discretion, knowing that you're the injured party because she broke the marriage, not you. But now, since it's no-fault divorce, you just lose half your assets. That's the other part of the financial aspect of the marriage. There's paternity, there's finances. So you give that up. You can figure out paternity without marriage. There's no such thing as being seen as an injured spouse here or injured party when the divorce happens. So that nullifies the rest of the use of marriage. There's no point in signing the contract. Just make an agreement before God's eyes instead of the state's if you feel strongly about being with one person.
And so the best way to secure the best possible relationship as a man is to be a woman's best possible option.
Yeah.
This is the other flip side of it. It's like most guys know what it's like to have shitty jobs.
Yeah.
Like we were talking earlier, it takes about 10 years to build anything, right? Now, you might have dealt with low-paying jobs or disrespectful bosses or overbearing colleagues. And imagine after 10 years, you actually land a job where the salary's good and you're doing something meaningful and you like your colleagues and you're excited to go to work. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do shit to rock the boat in that situation, especially because you know what the job market is like out there.
Yeah.
You could lose this job. It's probably not going to be a step up.
Yep.
Women know what's out there. Mm-hmm. This is why I always call a bluff on a woman's jealousy tactic, which is other men make me look good. You know what I'm saying? I have nothing to fear from the average dude out there.
Yeah.
Go and see for yourself, sweetie. Mm-hmm. Don't, no skin off my back. So if you become a woman's best option, and she's actually had some experience in the sexual marketplace, not necessarily by sleeping around, but just by dating and knowing what kind of men are out there, mm-hmm. and she can recognize you as a high value man, you're going to have effortless relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to be significantly her best option.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is. That's the advice, right? Become a high value man. That's it. It's advice, and it's true. These things will happen if you become the high value man. The problem is it's just not feasible for most guys. So most people watch this and it's just like, you know, that they watch the women get dunked on, whatever, what's your body count? Ha ha ha, you're delusional. And it just becomes an exercise of like a kind of mental masturbation for the mob who watches this that will never be high value men. You know, they're not sitting at that table. And, you know, what's funny is Myron, the guy who's interviewing him, I actually just read his book. I bought the book. It's called Why Women Deserve Less. And he talks, it was pretty good. I mean, you should pick it up and read it. It's a short book, and it makes a bunch of great points. It does a good job of describing the situation. He talks about the old contract and the new contract, and he does a good job of that. But towards the end of the book, essentially what he says is that once you become high value, it really is up to the woman to do all the work of keeping the relationship together, right? You don't have to worry about committing. Like you don't have to worry about the one who puts in the effort to keep the relationship, right? And it's kind of like if you're an average guy and you're trying to get at this chick and this chick has so many options, it's like you're doing all the work to try to keep her around, right? So then the script basically flips, and he's just saying guys need to understand that, which is fine, again, but it's not going to happen for most people. And that is addressed in the book, to be fair. And the advice for that is, well, don't simp and focus on yourself, basically. Don't invest any money into them. Take that money and invest it back into yourself, which sounds great. The problem is it's not exactly something that most guys will be able to do, because sex is something that on a long enough timeline they're going to need and want, and they're going to have no choice but to play the game. And whether, however they go about doing that. So these men that are left out in the cold are in this unenviable position. I mean, that's most of us guys, of having to deal with this situation. And it's an uphill battle, and it's just not getting any better.
Money thing real quick. Can you describe that to the audience before we close out? Because you had said women don't want to spend their own money, etc., but there was a metaphor linked to sexual market value real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, the money thing.
So I made that video and people said, we'll do the same thing for women. And okay. So I thought about it and I came up with the metaphor that men treat women the way women treat money. Mm-hmm. And you might think on the surface, it's kind of the same thing. Women treat men like jobs, men treat women like money. Not the same fucking thing at all, man. Yeah. Okay. One of the main reasons why is, what are your associations about work? For most people.
Yeah.
I gotta go to work,
80%
man.
plus hate their jobs.
Got those Mondays, man. Mm-hmm. What's people's association with getting paid?
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. It's the second Friday of the month.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. So this is what most women don't understand. It's like, I can now go into a bar and in maybe an hour, I can come out with 5 numbers. Mm-hmm. Okay. It took me 10 years to be able to pick up a girl in 10 minutes, mm-hmm. because I had to become a high value man. I had to overcome my approach anxiety. I had to be charming. I had to learn some game. I had to get my fashion on point. Mm-hmm. Like, I had to be someone that a woman would be attracted to relative to my competition. Mm-hmm. And she needs to be able to see that in 5 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Okay. women don't understand. When she says yes, that's my payday. I've worked for 10 years to get that yes. From her perspective, we just talked for 5 minutes. I did 10 years of work to get that yes in 5 minutes. You understand?
Yeah.
And that's why women don't get it. We do all of that in order to get access to them.
Yeah.
So when we get it, it's payday. We don't think we got to do anything more. What kind of relationship goals do most men have? They're just happy to be there most of the time. You know what I'm saying?
Simple.
Because it's like, finally, I got the girl. Women have no idea of how hard it is for the average man to get a woman.
That, it's a solution. Become a high value man is a solution, but it's unfortunately a short-term solution because we see high value men all the time, especially more recently, get screwed over. They're high value. They get the woman, they commit, and then they get, in a situation like Tyrese Gibson, where he's just crying about the child support all the time. David Garibaldi, that was a local Sacramento high value man right there. Kevin Costner, whoever. There's so many. Tom Brady. You can put so many different people's names in that bracket. So it doesn't solve the long-term issue, which is what do we do about family creation and commitment? And that's where I think the self-improvement mantras tend to fail because it doesn't solve that problem. Okay? What needs to happen is we need to get the laws changed. We need to band back together, and there needs to be a political will to reevaluate marriage in order to make it palatable for modern times. Here's an idea. What if there were caps on spousal and child support? I used to work as a child support officer. Why should there be a $10,000 a month child support order? Why should there be a $15,000 a month spousal support order? Especially if you live in Sacramento and let's say the cost of living is, let's say $5,000 a month will get you there. So there should be a cap on it. Well, what's that going to change? How's this going to help the low value men in the situation? Well, first of all, it'll stop targeted predation from women looking for high value men, because what that means is they will know if they walk away, they will only get so much money. Or if they do the baby trap, they will only get so much money that's capped at a certain amount. So they're more incentivized to either stay in that relationship or maybe even come back down the pyramid and marry someone that doesn't make as much as the Bugatti guy, but still makes a decent amount of money. Maybe he's a software engineer or an electrical engineer or whatever it is. This will even out the market a little bit more. Maybe people can actually marry for love, God forbid, instead of money. If a man is a provider to a woman and she wants to walk away, she can walk away, but she's just going to get the capped amounts, which is enough for that 2-bedroom apartment on not the best side of town. But hey, you're walking away from the provider's lifestyle. You're not entitled to everything they have. And then who knows? Maybe it'll even help stop parental alienation. Maybe if a woman is getting a capped amount of child support, which is just enough for what this kid needs in this city, maybe she's like, I know my ex can provide a better lifestyle. Maybe I'll actually facilitate a relationship between dad and the kid. Maybe I won't parental alienate and try to get 100% custody just so I can get the max child support amount. Maybe I do want 50-50 custody in this in order to get the dad in the kid's life so he can provide more and be there. What else do we need to change? Paternity laws. Paternity fraud. I mean, we know women have no problem being polygamous. Open relationships are the things nowadays. This is going to present a huge problem in the future. Who's the dad? Our entire civilization is based off of owning property. This is mine. I want my son and daughter, whoever, to inherit this. Okay, so we've had all these laws created in order to say you're the dad. But when you figure out you're not the dad and the kid's 6 years old, they're like, too bad, you're the dad. All this property and stuff you wanted to give to your child, well, that's your child, biologically or not, and they got rights to it. You can't get out of this. You have to pay the child support. Even if you're a victim of paternity fraud. So let's give men the right to opt out of that if that's what happens to them. If they go to court and prove, hey, I was lied to, this is not my child, they should be given the right to delegitimize that child and to remove parental status. Why? Because we have genetic tests now. Go after the real father. And if men were focused on getting these laws changed, making them more equitable, it would incentivize people to want to get married again. Maybe the high value guys would be like, if I'm not going to get screwed, I'm fine with living with one woman I can actually pay attention to instead of being up here cleaning it up. And we can even out the market that way. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think down below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. What laws would you change? Do you think we should be focusing on this? Do you think the self-improvement angle is the only solution to this? Can the laws be changed, or is it just a dream or a fantasy that's not feasible and can't happen in this current climate? Let me know what you think. Almost to 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Please remember to hit that subscribe button. Every subscribe, every like helps. We'll see you on the next one.